Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. In this video today, guys, we're going to be diving down into the world of crypto, and we are going to be joined by Matt Dixon, CEO of advice.io, to join us to walk us through his charts on what he is seeing happening here in the crypto space. As we get into this video, if you do find it useful and informative, hit that like button. Really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. If you're not yet part of our Discord group, links in the description down below, completely free to sign up there. Go ahead, join. You'll be able to basically talk to us directly, send us messages, ask us questions, and see additional technical analysis down in our Discord server. So why not check it out? Right, with all that said, done, and out of the way, let's actually jump on down to the desktop. Welcome Matt to the show and get into some charts with what is going on here in the crypto space.
Great, thank you guys. It's a pleasure to be here again, and thank you to the wonderful Cheeky Crypto community. After last week's video, we had a lot of people follow the video. We had a massive explosion of connections with Evi within the Telegram community, and obviously following our ratings. So we're obviously doing something right. So thank you for that. We really appreciate your following. I've just put up there, obviously the website is 𝗕𝗓𝗪.io. And then my personal trade account for the Twitter is @MDTrade. So I've had a lot of people jumping on, following there, and it's really good because obviously then we can update things more on a daily basis. And this is great. I mean, I love what Cheeky Crypto are doing in terms of empowering and informing their investors. This is great once a week. I hope at some point we'll be able to step that up because there has been a great following and people. Some amazing feedback. Again, thank you. We discussed last week, it's actually after the recording last week, I discussed with the guys about correlations within crypto between traditional assets. And the reason we were looking at this was to see if we can try to get some idea of when the big market turnaround is going to be, when we're going to get this crypto winter that everybody's talking about. We've had a little bit of a correction now, but it's clearly corrective. I think we're definitely still heading to new all-time highs. And I'll be looking at a couple of those turnaround points that we identified in the last week that have worked very well, and we're now sitting on nice profits. For me, I've studied these kind of things, indicators. I mean, eBay itself is actually a multi-factor model looking at various factors, and then within each factor there's multiple indicators. And one thing we can look at are correlations. Now, for a correlation to be useful, really speaking, it doesn't need to be directly correlated, otherwise it's not leading. So to be a useful correlation, one needs to lead another, so that then you can see if, for example, if there was a correlation where the S&P led Bitcoin, for example, by a little bit, you could then say when S&P goes up, then Bitcoin will follow. And we'll just look at that and see whether that's true. We looked around all sorts of different correlations. I'm just going to throw one up very quickly, which was actually the tightest correlation that I could find over the past few months for Bitcoin. And believe it or not, the tightest correlation we found was for the price of avocados. So going on that basis alone, you want to follow the price of avocados to see what's going to happen with Bitcoin. And you could possibly even argue that it's leading to some extent. Obviously, that's pretty clearly a load of rubbish, because if you look longer term, the correlation breaks down completely. But it just shows about statistics. What do they call it? Lies, damn lies, and statistics, I think is the saying, as the saying goes. And you can prove anything with statistics over various periods of time. So we'll throw that one in the bin, because as I say, when you look over a longer term, it's got no correlation whatsoever. But short term, it was amazing. For the past few months, price of avocados has followed Bitcoin or vice versa. So I tried to look here at more conventional correlations. Now, why I say correlations are useful is either if it's leading or if you have a limited amount of data, then you can look if something is correlated. Then if you've got limited data for one particular asset, as we do with all cryptocurrency, you know, Bitcoin, the oldest one, has only been going just over 10 years now. And a lot of these cryptos are relatively new on the scene. Now, for a lot of the analysis, trading analysis and chart analysis that you do, you need to look at a long period of time to get any real idea of what's happening, especially if you're trying to predict macro cycles. And you can't do that with a 10-year period of time. If you're looking at Elliott wave, you've got all the different fractals, and a lot of those fractals are looking much longer term. So you just can't do the analysis that you'd like to do on these cryptos. But what is useful, if you can find some kind of long-term correlation, then you could actually extrapolate backwards and then look at the other instrument and try to get some picture from there of where things are going. But just to sort of wrap this up, I was going to do a whole session on it, but when I found out how useless these correlations were in my mind, I want to wrap it up fairly quickly. So we're seeing, you can see the squiggly line moving up there, which is S&P, and I'm looking at a weekly chart. So we're looking pretty long term there, a couple of years. We can look back much further. In fact, I will move it just to a monthly just to see. So we can see with the massive rise in Bitcoin, you can see there's some kind of correlation there. So there is some kind of usefulness there. And if we can do an analysis, particularly something like an Elliott wave analysis, looking at the long-term chart pattern with the S&P, and being as there is some fair level of correlation there, although you can see, and as we focus in, you'll see that the correlation breaks down in recent times. Yeah, so coming back in, moving, looking at the long-term correlations here, there is some kind of correlation long-term, possibly, we could say. So if we can find a potential turning point in the future, we know there are warning signs out there. We've seen the Fed just come out a couple of days ago, starting to raise interest rates. We saw in the UK that the inflation rate had risen to 5%. I think that's the highest it's been for the past decade. So we're seeing rising inflation. We're seeing this massive money supply, and it's starting to pull back on that. But we're not actually seeing a massive growth in the economies. In fact, because of COVID, we've probably seen a downturn overall in the economies. So we've got these conflicting factors of basically a rising interest rates coming with falling growth, and we've got this spectre of stagflation around the corner. Now that is not good for fiat currency because they've got infinite supply, and you've got these massive problems of potential devaluation. And that's why crypto is so interesting, and that's why crypto came into existence, why Bitcoin came into existence, because of all the mistrust of ratings agencies and fiat money, and how it's just created out of thin air. And Bitcoin, obviously with its limited supply of 21 million, and the same with many of the cryptos, they're far more efficient monetary systems, and there is going to be a move and changeover. And I think we're just seeing the very beginning of this, but I could go on about that forever. But looking at the long-term correlations, as I say, there's something there, and we can look at the Elliott wave analysis, and we can see that we're set for a turnaround. We're probably in the final fifth wave on a macro analysis. But if we look shorter term, we can move to our weekly chart. You can see that the correlations start to break down when you look shorter term. So it means it doesn't necessarily have any predictive value. So whilst we've seen the S&P continue to rise, every time we've had a downturn in Bitcoin, the S&P hasn't really responded in the same way. And so there isn't a particular correlation that we can look at. And I've looked at all the various currency pairs. I've tried to look at risk currencies. You know, you look at Japanese yen, which is a strong carry currency. And again, I can't find any useful correlations that we can use. So the only useful correlation I can find is long term. We can try to identify a potential turning point in S&P, and then we can predict or look forward to the turnaround in the crypto markets. So looking just quickly back on the 4-hour chart, I think I'm going to remove these correlations. So this has been really quite exciting in the past week. We've seen the price of Bitcoin falling in 3 clear waves, and we've looked at that in previous weeks about this correction that's happened, and we can see it move down from the top. We've had basically an ABC correction. Now, what's so interesting about this is if we look at the Fibonacci relationships here. So what's really interesting here is if we look at from the top here and we put a Fibonacci measurement tool on there, and you can see we're measured from 0% there all the way through the Fibonacci relationships down to 100% here. It is a big WXY correction, in fact. So I've got this labeled as ABC, but if we look at this from here down to the A wave, is actually a W wave, and I've put my Fibonacci tool measurement there. Then I move that down to top of this, which is actually the top of the X wave, and it gives us the final move down that we had precisely to the 41,000 or 42,000. In fact, it was the low point we had on Bitcoin. Then from there, I was saying we're going to get this wave one up, which we've actually had a wave one up here, and we can actually see we had an extended wave one, we had an ABC down wave two, we had a wave three, a wave four, and a wave five. That in itself made up the wave one. Then we had an ABC correction down in wave two. Now, what was interesting here is that if we looked at 61.8% of this total wave one, from the bottom here to top of wave one, 61.8% brought you to precisely 45,000, whatever it is here, 45.7. I actually had a warning level here, an alert at 45,800, because that was the 61.8%. So once we've seen the top of wave one, we start seeing the correction down. We had the A wave down, B wave up, C wave down. The C wave came to exactly 61.8. We got further confirmation here, where you can see the tool here measuring from the top of wave one. We measure the wave A, the size of that. We move to top of wave B there, and you see that the wave, it's precise, that the actual C wave precisely equals the A wave. So we've got a number of confirmations here, and it's always good to look for multiple confirmations. So we got the move up on Bitcoin in 5 nice waves there. Normally the wave 3 is the extended one, but we actually got an extended wave 1, which is still allowable. And the wave 4 didn't overlap wave 1. It fulfills all of the rules that we have there. And then the C wave equaling the A wave is the most common relationship. But the fact that when you got the exact corresponding C wave equaling the A wave coming to exactly the 0.618 retracement of wave 1, that's powerful when the indicators coincide. And so this was a very strong buy. Now on my Twitter, I indicated to people ahead of time where this point was. So I wasn't saying after time, ahead of time where the likely turning point was on Bitcoin. And you can check back on my Twitter feed that that was the case. And we've got a wave 1 up, wave 2 down. I think we're moving up on, well, we've moved up very well from that 45.8, we're now 49. So we're a full 3,000 in profit now, 3,000 on Bitcoin in profit. So tremendous profit there. Okay, I'm just going to skip through some of the other interesting charts. I wanted to show this one, 𝗕𝗘𝗪, which is contentos, and we had a trader write into us and said, "I just bought the upgrade on 𝗕𝗘𝗪," and you can see this was the point of the upgrade, and you can see the very moment it was upgraded, we got a massive boost. So our trader took 15% profit on this, but our upgrade was a big upgrade from C1 to A3 on the ratings. So these ratings, we actually did a presentation the other night again. And when you tie them with other indicators, you can really get some good buys. So when you see the upgrades and when they align with some of your other indicators, such as the Elliott wave buy signals that I put out, then you can really make some good money. So there's a lot more than 15% from the bottom here, but this particular trader took a very quick 15% profit in a very, very short period of time. And he mentioned another one he'd done on our ratings a couple of weeks earlier, that he'd made 53% on it. So it's a very useful tool that you can utilize. I won't look at the Elliott wave of this. It was just to illustrate that the signals are very powerful. H-bar is one that a lot of people are really interested in. We've got a very clear A, B, and once again, if I just focus in on that, you'll see that from the top of the move here, put the Fibonacci tool on, 100% down to wave A. So that's the 100% move. We now move that to the top of wave B, and it actually gave us a perfect move down here to the end of this wave here. This was a 1.382, in fact. And it was a perfect turning point. So you can't keep the same positions all the time, but you could have bought in at this point. It was a very clear, especially with this, as we talked last week, that these spikes are very important buying signals. They're showing exhaustion in the market. They're showing the position of the whales and the market makers. So these spikes are very important signals. So the fact that it coincided with the 1.382, there's money to be made there. And you can't hold the positions forever. You've got to have some kind of take profit because the markets never continue to move in one direction. So I labeled that as wave 3. We've got to move up in wave 4 and then a final wave 5 down, which as it was supposed to, came down to lower than the wave 3 to complete that wave. Then from the bottom there, we got a wave 1 up, wave 2, and we're getting quite an impulsive wave 3 higher here on H bar. So this was another one. People were getting a little bit worried when it's down here, but this is the time to be looking at and looking to buy. As I said last week, when there's blood in the streets and you're seeing these Fibonacci relationships, we're hitting them. I actually expected this to come a little bit lower, but again, I said last week, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Phase your buys in. So once you get beyond wave 3, this spike, you can start to phase in some buys. You don't put all your eggs in one go. So you could have had a few buys here, and you would have bought more if it continued lower, but it didn't. So you should have something in your bag to be moving up there. Hero is a really interesting one. Again, the Fibonacci relationships are really exciting. We've got a very clear ABW there, and we've got an ABX wave, and I think we're going to move up in a Y wave. So even that W wave was, some very nice wave counts and Fibonacci relationships within. And I won't focus too much on them because they're all there. Have a play around with the tools and learn for yourself, because these Fibonacci relationships are going to be key to profitable trading. So I think we completed the X wave here, and we're looking again quite an impulsive move higher so far. So you can be into some trades here. You can be protecting with some manual stop losses. Again, don't automate it because I can see where your positions are. I'll jump through. I might as well just run through them very quickly. We got such a nice chart here on sand again, sandbox. 1, 2, 3. I think this is wave 4, and I think we've got here from the bottom of wave 4, we've got wave 1 up. This is some kind of wave 2 correction, and I think we're going to move impulsively higher to get above this wave 3 to a wave 5 somewhere up here. So with all the instruments so far, we're looking at moving higher in the foreseeable future. But we are going to reach that turning point, and we need to keep the focus on how things are moving. Once we get above this wave 3 here, you need to look at your analysis very clearly and look for turning points. I'll just touch on Litecoin. As you know, it's a real favorite. The wave count's so clear with it. So yeah, once again, we'll have a look at the wave count from the wave B there, and you can look around for these relationships. And I looked at the wave B compared with moving from the top of that wave B. There is a relationship there. It came down to 1.618 here, and then we got a wave 4 here. So I actually got this final move down. It could be a wave A, B, or 1, 2, 3, but from here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is actually come down lower. So it's a valid count. Then I think we've got a 5-wave move up here. So that should be labeled as a wave 1. And then we've got this corrected move down here, wave 2, which doesn't go below this wave. So it's still valid. If it crossed over this, the wave count's wrong. We've got to start again. But then we've started to move higher, again, quite impulsively. So if that is a wave 1 on Litecoin, and we've got a WXY, this is a big wave 2, there is a long way to go, a lot higher to go with Litecoin. It's got such amazing potential. It's well worth a look at. And then finally, just looking at Mana, I was looking at account here. This looked as though it might be some kind of ending diagonal. It doesn't fulfill all the rules, the normal rules for Elliott wave. We had a strong impulsive move up here, a corrective move here. But when you're counting, you need to remember that these waves cannot overlap. So wave 4 overlapping wave 1. So this is, theoretically speaking, it's probably a wrong wave count, either that or it's some kind of ending diagonal of maybe a WXY or something. But I'm not happy with this wave count, so I will be looking at it. But just looking at correlations between the various assets, I still think that we've seen a low here, some kind of wave 1 here, wave 2, and we're looking at something quite impulsive moving higher. So just looking at correlations, it's still a very interesting token. It's great. It's done lots recently, and I think there's a long way still to go. So thank you again. I hope you guys get something from this. I really appreciate all of you guys coming and following what I'm doing. It really encourages me and I'll continue to post every day on Twitter, probably twice a day on Twitter, some of those interesting tokens. And thank you again, Cheeky Crypto, for all your support. Thank you.
And that was Matt from 𝗕𝗏, going through what he is seeing here in the charts from Bitcoin, Litecoin, Metaverse, coins such as MetaHero, Sandbox, etc. Some fantastic insights by Matt Dixon. If you have found this useful and informative, hit the like button. Really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With this said, done, and out of the way, we hope everyone has a fantastic day, and we'll catch you all in the next one.